Before we get started, I would like us to have a moment of silence for the tragedy that happened down the road from us in Buffalo. Thank you. All righty. Counselor Paniagua. Oh, here.
Good afternoon, everybody. We have unfinished business. It's 8, item 8, AB.
A and B.
A and B. And that would be the local law of the city of Syracuse to amend 2021 city budget. And for 1773 local, and the same for the trades, the New York Building Trades Council.
You can call them ready.
Call them ready, yes.
All righty. I have item number 9, and I should know by Monday if I have any deeds. I'm going, no? Not, well, I'll know Monday. We'll put it ready with a question mark. All righty. Counselor Caldwell.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have items 10 and 11. 10 is Syracuse Industrial Development Agency for landscaping services on behalf of the Department of Parks and Rec and Youth Program. And we also have, Julie, you can go up there, and item 11 with the YMCA of Greater Syracuse to offer free education, wellness programs in the city of parks on behalf of Park Recreation and Youth. Julie will talk about it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 10 is to enter into agreement with CITA. They are intending to sell Lipe Art Park to the city of Syracuse for it to become parkland. That is expected to happen this year, but in the meantime, it needs to be mowed, so we'd like to enter into agreement so that we can mow it.
How has it been functioning under CITA?
They were mowing it. They were, and they just don't have a, it seems like they want to pass it over to the Parks Department. We're happy to take it on.
Does CITA have staff to mow?
No, they've been contracting it out.
Oh, so they contracted out.
We do as well. But we were preparing for this, so we got a quote to mow it should this happen. So we're mowing it. We would like to mow it.
Does CITA have multiple properties that need mowing?
I can't speak for them.
Okay, yeah. I don't want you to speak for them. But yeah, and what will be the, as a park, do you have any other additional plans or basically maintain it in its current?
This is very early. Once it becomes ours, we'll start having those discussions. We'll look at what's currently there, but we do not have anything determined yet.
Nothing planned?
Nothing planned.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the contracting out on that aspect of it, will it be contracted out to the same person that you already have currently that does the?
So what we do in the Parks Department as a whole, we contract out approximately 200 locations. This last year, there was about 25 locations or so that needed to be added. So anticipating this, we added it. So it was done through the formal process of bidding it out.
Okay.
So yes, it went through the process.
Thank you.
I got a quick question, Julie. So what would be the functionality of that park? Because I know where it is. It's just going to stay an art park because it's a little too close for comfort for Fayette Street to say it's going to be a park.
Not all parks have to become, I mean, some parks are more passive parks. It doesn't have to be an active park. I don't anticipate us putting a playground there where we encourage children to run across Fayette Street. So we don't have a vision, but I don't anticipate us changing it greatly. You do have, though, the pump track right next to it, which is not as a part of what's being turned over to us.
Well, it does have some economic development aspects to it. I mean, that's where, so why wouldn't we just take over the park and allow CITA to keep on paying us for the mowing? If you're gonna contract out the mowing anyways. Eric? That's right. I mean, we're just discussing that there is some economic development aspects of the Light Park. You know, the city parks department will take it over.
Sure.
And why wouldn't we, out of a gesture from CITA, to just pay for the contract?
I think so. The discussions we've been having has really just been around capacity. So for CITA, which we had, one person within NBD managing CITA, and I think the conversations with Julie has really been around all of our maintenance capacity. All that operation is already built within parks, and because it is more of a recreational facility, recreational property, I think our thought process was really around the efficiency of that.
I agree with you totally. I'm just wondering why CITA wanted to keep on paying for it. I'm trying to save the parks some money here.
Yeah, I think what we were just looking at it too is just capability and proper programming. You know, CITA being able to focus on, you know, other things that it does that, you know, are a better fit housed within the Parks Department, I guess. So I think, you know, I know Judy Delaney and Julie have had a lot of conversations around this. I think, you know, the CITA board, very interested and willing to work directly with Parks, just because I think we're also just looking at this as a neighborhood asset. I think we view it's better housed under Parks, under their programming.
I agree.
Yeah.
But as the Commissioner pointed out, we don't want kids running across Fayette
Right.
Street. So I think the park
Sure.
has a lot of economic development potential as
Sure.
part of, to show off the neighborhood and all that. So I think it'd be a great partnership for CITA to take the cost of mowing it, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, I think what we can then do is, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. And then I think given, you know, there will be another study session, we can just have that conversation and circle back with you. If that works.
If you're just looking for the price, CITA has been mowing it all up to this point. I mean, up until this current.
You've been mowing it?
No, this is the first year that Parks will be mowing it.
Is it,
Hogan's saying you should do the mowing, but CITA should pay for it.
Right.
Oh.
you have a contractor, correct?
Yes.
Both have contractors. So instead of you writing the check, we'll have CITA write the check. How's that?
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, Counselor, so what we'll do, we'll have the,
This isn't high-five.
no, it's okay. We'll have the conversation with CITA, just around, again, the budget from our perspective, and then, you know, I think Julie, Parks has communicated, they have the capacity, the capability. Your point is around who is actually paying for the maintenance. Okay, let us go back and have that conversation, all right?
Eric, has there been environmental testing on the site?
So I think we have looked at it because at one point we were actually able to put infill dirt in when it was used as both an art park, when the pump track project was done. So I want to say that maybe phase 1 testing was done a while back. We do not have any concern from a safety perspective on people walking through that or using that resource.
So
So,
there's been a secret determination on the site or not?
well, the phase 1, I think there's a phase 1 file that I should be able to go back and dig up, but I think we have not, like the actual seeker review, just because of the fact there hasn't been any development or any activity that would necessitate that. So I have to go back and look at the environmental records.
Well, let's look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yep.
Item number 11 is to enter an agreement with the YMCA. This used to be a summertime only program called Power Scholars, where the YMCA would come into some of our locations, offer a morning of what's called Power Scholars, which had an educational aspect to it, a recreational aspect to it, and those kids would just then loop into our staff in the afternoon. That is going to continue. However, this year the YMCA would like to extend into the school year. So this year we are asking for a full calendar year. I'm sorry, July 1 to June 30th. 12 months of an agreement. They will then come into all of our community centers, still do a Power Scholar aspect, but as well do fitness classes, not just for our community centers, but for our senior citizens as well. And there's no cost for this.
I like no cost.
No cost is good.
This is awesome. So I'm gonna hold 10 and 11 is ready.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 12 is an IT item.
There you go. Frank Kalita, the city's chief administrative officer. Coding It Forward is a national not-for-profit. They act as a go-between for undergrad and graduate students in information technology who are looking for 10 to 12-week fellowships. Coding It Forward takes in money from philanthropic sources, the Knight Foundation, a couple other foundations to pay those students. We have an agreement with Coding It Forward to get a fellow for 10 to 12 weeks this summer. They would work on some of our partner websites, so programs that the city's involved with that are not technically part of the city, so they won't be on the city's website. The Financial Empowerment Center, the Police Athletic League, a couple others like that. So no cost to the city, but the council needs to approve that in kind.
And you know what? Wording is very important, right? We agree on that, right? And I'm reading this, and I would like to see employ a full-time paid digital fellow. We're not employing them.
No, they'll be employed by the,
Right,
they're
but it
employed by
says
the not-for-profit.
city to employ. Or can we say the city to bring on, because we're not employing them?
We're not employed. We'll change the word in there, sure.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep, not
What's
employed.
the not-for-profit?
It's called Coding It Forward, started by a couple students in Harvard and now headquartered in DC.
Excuse me, Counselor. In the letter, they do mention that, Coded Forward will pay for it.
Understand that, and that, but it's saying the city to employ. We're not employing them.
So do you want me to just change the short title, or you want them to issue another letter?
The short title can just be changed. I'm fine with that.
Let's check, we'll just make sure that that all lines
Yeah,
up.
but the letter says that,
Did we use the word employee in the letter?
so we, yeah, why don't we just?
Which we should not have done.
Just,
We'll figure out the best way to fix it with you, clerk. Yep.
I mean, I have one more question. So do you have somebody already in mind for this, or how are you gonna employ the person?
So no, so it's a co-interview. So the 501c3 Coding It Forward, they interview folks, make sure that they're eligible, do all the due diligence, and then we'll interview a few of the folks that they recommend to make sure that they're going to fit with the projects that we've got.
And it's a one-time.
One time, yep.
Time spot.
One time, up to 3 months. I think that most of the arrangements are for 10 to 12 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on this item?
I'll follow up with you, clerk.
Item 13, is this a Nico?
Hi, Nicolas Diaz, Chief Innovation and Data Officer for the City of Syracuse. Yeah, item number 13 is an agreement with the Government Performance Lab, which is housed at the Harvard Kennedy School. This is something that I foreshadowed in our budget hearing. As you may remember, this is part of a larger grant provided by Bloomberg Philanthropies, where they're providing $1 million in resources and the support from the Government Performance Lab to take a look at our procurement processes. This is a 2-year program, but the agreement is for 1 year and pending review, and it brings no costs to the city.
Any questions on this?
It's very exciting, Nico, and I'm sorry if we already discussed this and I forgot about it, but what, do you know what types of innovations or results we're expecting? Like, I just, it's very exciting to hear about, but I was curious about if you could give us a little more detail on what innovations you expect and what are the desired results.
Absolutely. Well, right now we're in the middle of the scoping phase, so we are in the process of interviewing folks at the budget department, at the finance department, to understand what are some of the barriers that both vendors and city staffers face when it comes to our procurement processes, and particularly the RFP process. So the Kennedy School at the Government Performance Lab is known for their methodology, which is heavily centered around the concept of results-driven contracting, which is structuring your RFPs in ways that are focusing on the metrics and the data in order to achieve the best services possible for the city at the lowest possible costs for the constituent. So that's an avenue that we will explore very heavily. In fact, we had a pilot last year where we used that methodology for our broadband access RFP. But there are many possible challenges which we could tackle, among which is, for example, the access for minority and woman-owned businesses to city procurement processes. So all of that is part of the conversations that are ongoing as part of this scoping phase.
So it's basically a 360. You're looking to reduce price, deliver maximum value to the taxpayer, and also working on WBE, women and minority businesses, and how to increase those numbers to meet our targets.
Correct.
Great. Well, we look forward to it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
Nico. Items 14, 15, and 16 will be discussed in executive session, so we'll go to item 17.
So as we all know, the county put a cap on their sales tax collections related to gas sales. There is a clause in that ordinance from the county that the city can opt out of that cap, and the county will keep the city whole. That requires the mayor and the common council to request that opt-out. So this is a request to do that, to opt out of the gas cap. It does not change the fact that our residents in the city will still benefit from the cap. It just keeps the city whole from any lost revenue. There's some caveats in there, but happy to entertain any questions.
Yeah, Frank, so the last sentence in the county ledge's resolution says that they will not provide compensation if the city's actual share of sales taxes equals or exceeds the amount budgeted by Onondaga County. And we know it's going to exceed that amount based on inflation, based on everything going. And my understanding in the previous conversation we had is that there was conversation with the county executive and that this was this is not the intent, and that
his intent.
Yes. So, because this would render the whole thing useless, in my opinion, right? So, I just want to be very clear that the city's perspective is that we're not in agreement to waive the cap, and we don't.
Right. So I think your point is exceedingly important. This would be, as it stands on the face of it, a safety net. If suddenly, for some reason, sales tax revenues were to go the other direction and plummet, right now it clearly looks like we're going to exceed both our own budget as well as the county's budget. So you're right, Councilor Green, we would not get paid anything. There is, let's call it a handshake agreement, a verbal agreement between the mayor and the county executive that the county executive is going to, it assures the mayor that we will in fact be kept whole on the gas revenues specifically. And we're looking for clarification on that and getting it in writing. So the first step will be this opt-out, and then we'll have Brad O'Connor start working with the finance team over at the county to figure out exactly how we make good on the county executive's promise.
Other questions on this item?
So, is this handshake agreement the understanding of the county legislature too, or what?
Don't know the answer to that. The mayor and the county executive had a conversation this morning, so don't know where it stands.
Yeah, I mean, the main issue I have, obviously, gas is disproportionately used by residents outside the city. Their commute is longer, they drive more, then a quarter of the city doesn't have a car, we're closer to work. So this is a sales tax that disproportionately, this benefits the suburban residents, like, let's be perfectly clear about it. So I think for the county to kind of unilaterally make a decision that they're going to give a sales tax break to residents that disproportionately are outside the city, I just want to make sure the city gets made whole on that. And I think
we agree 100%. So to the extent that that's in our control, the opt-out is the first step, and then we'll begin pursuing that. Yes.
Okay.
So we'll know what happens after the day, right?
Of course, we'll keep you up to date, certainly.
Okay.
So there's a determination, the sales tax people, whoever determines, they can determine what particular, because we went through this with the different issues the first time on the council, determination of where exactly sales tax revenue comes from. They could determine that the gasoline, that the sales tax revenue for fuel, they can break it down geographically?
They certainly can break it down geographically. Commissioner O'Connor knows how it breaks down a little better than I do.
Councilors Brad O'Connor, Commissioner of Finance. So the way the state collects sales tax data, it's by region, by locale, by retailer, and also by type of sale. So fuel sales have their own sales type, and when the sales information is remitted to the state, we can track fuel sales within Onondaga County.
So what Councilor Green said, obviously there's more fuel sales outside the city of Syracuse in Onondaga County than there are inside the city of Syracuse. Is that what you said, Councilor Green?
I don't know where people are physically buying the gas, but people that live outside the city tend to drive more than people that live in the city by definition of longer commutes and everything else. So
there might be other factors too. There might be situations where certain companies fuel their vehicles inside the city as part of some sort of agreement. I don't know.
Could be. I'm just saying, if you live in Clay, you tend to drive more than people live in Tip Hill. That's just the nature of how the town is designed.
I see people driving around blocks at Tipperary.
Right.
Sometimes people move to Tipperary just for the reasons of walking. I won't get into that.
Sure.
But I go to Liverpool
they
and
do.
buy my gas.
You can tell, like the town of Clay, how much gasoline, how much sales taxes derive from fuel sales and.
The information is available. The information that I can access easily through the state doesn't break it down in that detail. It will give me the 30 different item codes for Onondaga County. So I can see how much fuel is sold in Onondaga County. It would probably take some different effort to get it broken down by locale or town.
So if you can see Onondaga, can you see what's being sold in the city?
No, it's all reported by county, because the county is the jurisdiction that collects the tax.
Okay.
If we hold the item, would that give you enough time to break it down?
I'm sorry, what was that?
If we hold the item, that'll give you enough time to break it down, break the numbers down, so we'll have more information.
Break it down by what?
Whatever you need to do, if we hold the item, you'll have additional time so you can give us more information on this, if he decides to hold the item. Because you said you can break it down to separate areas, but you said it would just take extra time to do that.
I don't know that I can. The information is available. The information is reported to New York State that way. I don't know that I would have access to that. What I could break down is the type of sale, or I have available the type of sale, so I can easily tell you in the past and in the future how much fuel is sold, and that's really how I would work with the county to determine.
So I think what I want to make sure I'm comfortable passing this is the county to say they're going to make us whole. Like that's, not without the last sentence, that they're going to make us whole. So I think that's something, if we can get some clarification on before Monday, we can vote on it.
We'll certainly do our best. I just, two points. I believe there's a timeline on this, so I need to confirm that for you on Monday as well, that we have to opt out by a certain time. The other point is, whether we end up getting anything back or not, we need to opt out in order to be even eligible to do it. So we're not in a worse position if we opt out. We're in a better position, but absolutely, we will work very hard to get that confirmation from exactly what the county executive means. We'll work, the mayor's office will work to get that clarification before Monday.
Why do we have to opt out?
Because unfortunately, that's the way the county wrote their ordinance. It requires us, the city, the common council, and the mayor to request the opt-out.
But the caveat is that there's a handshake agreement in case it might exceed what we're going to get.
That's correct. But again, what that means, that just came in a conversation this morning with the mayor and the county executive. So
That's a friendly conversation, handshake agreement.
I don't know how friendly it was, but the conversation took place.
But that's the kind of information that that we do need. But I want to ask you this. So what if the ledge pushes back? What happens? Because that's not the way they wrote it. So what happens?
It's, President Hudson, those are all the important questions that we need to find out. I don't know the answer to that.
Brian just brought to my attention that in the ordinance, in the ordinance is effective to June 1st. So that means we'll have to be voted on in this meeting. Joe, is that correct? Can you elaborate on that a little for the council?
Good afternoon, Joe Barry, First Assistant, Corporation Counsel. Yeah, so this issue is somewhat confusing because it's governed essentially by state law that sets the overall sales tax, and the state recently enacted an amendment that gave the counties, as Brad indicated, as the jurisdiction to make this adjustment. So my reading of the situation is the county can go ahead legally and put their cap in for the county as a whole, including the city, and we don't have any legal recourse to change that.
Right.
You'll see in your book that the county had two resolutions, one enacting the cap, the other offering this opt-out to the city, which in theory they would come back and compensate us if those conditions were met. That their cap is supposed to take effect on June 1st, So that really limits our options to push back. You know, essentially, they didn't have to offer us the waiver. They could have just put the cap on and said, that's what we're doing. So the waiver, I think, as adopted by the county legislature, you know, which they probably will not be revisiting before June 1st, is the best we can get at the moment. The recourse down the road would be to go back to your state representatives and have the state address this on the state tax side, so that local jurisdictions within a county would have some sort of say for future situations. But
And is the state legislation that gives the counties the ability to do that, is that partly because we have the sales tax sharing agreement? Like in a scenario where we collected our own sales tax, would that be up to us, or is it always the county regardless?
correct, so it's related. You know, aside from the gas cap tax, the state sales tax system has this ability for cities every 10 years to opt out of the county collecting the sales tax as a whole. And, you know, that recently came up in 2019. I think we renewed it for the next decade. But that agreement just covers the overall distribution. It doesn't get into the nuts and bolts of how the tax is collected, because that's a function of state law and the county as the agent collecting it. So, you know, that's in place until, I think, 2030, so that's not going to change in the near future. But within the context of that, the state, you know, made this change, as I mentioned, allowing the counties as a whole throughout the state to put these caps in. To your question, down the road, when that agreement expires, the city could look to collecting its own sales tax, in which case it would not be governed by that. But I think historically the problem has been, when you look at the data, overall the city benefits financially from being part of the countywide collection than if we're on our own. We're more at risk because, you know, a smaller geographical area, if one industry or one economic driver has a problem, then we're more exposed, whereas we benefit from the countywide economics.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Other questions on this?
I just hope the county realize we are in the seat of the county, so they need to put in some more everything.
Okay, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Paniagua.
Good afternoon again. I have items 18 to 22, 18 and 19. I will call them ready unless there's any. I'm sorry. Oh, Corey, come right ahead. Those are ready though. Then we have items 20 and 21, Corey. Those are the ones we actually need more information on. Local 3952.
Yes, thank you, Counselor. So items 18 and 19 are ones that have been before the council. This is the agreement with crew leaders and with building trades, and I sent information this morning with the financial information, so you should have all received that. And the new one on the agenda is middle managers. So this is a tentative agreement that we've reached with middle managers. It follows a lot of the previous agreements in that it's 5 years, it's 3% wage increases, and I can send a summary of this after this meeting. You know, some increases in longevity, agreement to Juneteenth. The essential employee payment is also in here. But what I just wanted to point out that also sets this one apart is that one of this unit's request was to adopt the paid parental leave policy for its members, and so that will be included in this agreement as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. So, so based on local law process, we are gonna table 20. and then we're gonna hold 21. And then item 22, I believe Commissioner Collins, is that you? Is an authorization of an MOU between the city and the Financial Empowerment Fund to continue to use client data platform.
Good afternoon, Michael Collins, Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development. Councilors, this particular item is simply a timing issue. We are at that point where the establishment of the Financial Empowerment Center is complete. The initial funding with Centers for Financial Empowerment out of New York City, which helped us establish it, has run its course. Included in all of that was a memorandum of understanding regarding the data platform that they host and we use. So since that funding has expired, it's just time for us to come back to you now and get authorization to be able to continue to use that data platform. There's no cost to the city, no money involved with it at all.
Any questions? Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Schultz.
Thank you, Madam President. Good afternoon, everyone. I have item 23. It's a resolution to appoint Catherine Fernandez to the Land Bank Citizen Advisory Board to fill a vacant seat. And I can say that Kate has excellent experience with rehabbing and flipping blighted properties to owner occupants. And she's a lifelong Syracusan and would totally be an asset to this board, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 24 and 25. I held 24 last time, and on the request of Councilor Majok.
Councilor Hogan, Councilor Mitchell is going to have a meeting at Friday at 10 o'clock, which will go out today with the... Don't look at me like that. But yeah, at 10 o'clock Friday concerning this property. You'll be getting
Okay, Councilor Majok can have his meeting at 10 a.m.
Okay.
I have another meeting, so
wanna
we'll
get
have to solo, I guess.
Any further insight from Heather? No.
I don't have
Nothing new to report from last time?
Nothing
My
new.
understanding is this, but somewhat, the developer is pretty nervous if they didn't expect this. I didn't relay those concerns to you, but.
would also like, if you think that developers, should be here or could provide additional information, invite them or her.
Let's see. Who is it? Okay. Sure. Let me know. No problem.
I'm using his words. If
Okay.
you think the developers should be here, then he would like for you to invite that
Okay.
person.
I will.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you very much.
Curtsy and everything else. Thank you, City Clerk, for your information. Item 25 is I think, the commissioners here. Why don't you?
Afternoon, Councilors. Michelle Spansky, Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood Development. Item 25 is to delegate Donnella Monk the responsibilities of Environmental Review Certifying Officer for the city. Donnella has already been acting in this capacity for several months. By default, these authorities are allocated or delegated to the chief officer of the city. So the mayor has subdelegated them off to her. We have a particular grant in process right now with New York State where they are also asking that the council sign off on this formally as well.
So what is, I'm sorry.
Go on, any questions? I was going to ask for any questions.
Well, I'm
Councilor
sorry to
Briscoe.
interrupt you there, Councilor Hogan. Could you explain to me what an environmental review certifying officer does and what?
Sure. So there is a whole host of federal and state statutes that we are obligated to abide by as it pertains to environmental regulations that have to be verified that any type of project that we're putting in funds, that we're in compliance with all of those applicable procedures. So things like where it is located relative to the floodplain, possibilities of endangered species, things of that nature. There's about 15 or 16 special categories that are looked at as a part of that process. So.
Gotcha, thank you.
Excellent. And your, maybe if you, a short resume.
Absolutely. Yep, happy to circulate that.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're ready there.
Thank
President
you.
Hudson's going to take Councilman Joe.
So Counselor Majuk will be taken by Counselor Allen.
Thank you. So he has items 26 and 27. Hello there, Schaaf.
Morning, Richard Schaaf, First Deputy Chief, Syracuse Police.
Okay, you want to just go, just give us an overview. I see it's with the body worn cameras. Is this a grant
Yep,
that
so
we're receiving?
Number 26, it's a application agreement to enter into a grant for the Department of Justice for $140,000 of burn funding. And what we want to do with $140,000 is start putting body worn cameras on some of our detectives.
Oh, okay.
There's no match required on this. However, down the road, after the grant runs out, we will be required for maintenance and all that stuff will come out of our budget. But currently, to purchase these, well, no match. They're free.
Okay.
How many? Like, what's the quantity?
I don't know the answer to that, but it's $140,000 worth. I don't even know what they cost. I can find out for you if you like, though.
Just curious, like, what's the capacity of cameras right now for the whole SPD?
So all patrol divisions has cameras. We've got them on the sergeants. Some of the ancillary units, like Sergeant Romaine, he's not in patrol, but he has a camera. So it's 200 and something. I don't know the exact number. I can find that out for you too if you like.
Okay, well, 200 is good.
Do you have a sense on when this will be approved, or?
I don't. But as soon as we can. I mean, we want to. That was our idea, is to get them on the detective. So that's why we're trying to more transparency.
All right, thank you.
Well, wait, before you go, I just want to ask a question, and it's not pertaining to this. I received an email, which I'm sure my counselors did as well, and they were complaining, first off, it was Syracuse University, and they were complaining about DPS, and then they started complaining about you guys. So who actually patrols and covers Syracuse University?
The neighborhood outside of the campus, we patrol that.
Okay, because they're right on the campus, and I don't like us taking hits for DPS.
Yep, so stuff that's on campus, they can do that. We're looking at an MOU to allow them to take more responsibility off of campus, but it has to be mutually beneficial to the city and to the university, so that's a work in progress.
'Cause this is on campus, and aren't they trained, and aren't they armed, and aren't they all of that they can do the same thing that you do?
For the most part, yes. They can conduct investigations.
Okay, so I just want them to stop thinking that our police department is gonna come up on that university and do the jobs that they're trained to do.
But if I can add to that, President Hudson, the SU agreement does fund 2 community service officers to patrol Shine and then one other location I'm not remembering.
That's going to be the community service officers, but that hasn't kicked in yet, so we're not doing that. But that's more of an information booth type of thing and not actually patrolling the area, because CSOs don't patrol, right? They're not police officers.
Okay.
Did you want me to go over into the other one too?
Sure.
Number 27?
Yep.
So 27 is an agreement to enter into an agreement with Onondaga County for what's called Web EOC, which is going to be a high-level emergency management software. The county already has the funds. We're just looking to get into the agreement with them. There's no cost to the city at this point in time. However, when the agreement runs out in 3 years, if we have to do an annual maintenance, that cost will be, I've got it here, it's about $6,100 a year for annual maintenance to keep the software up. But this software is, we looked at it for a long time and we like it. The county likes it, the fire likes it. It's a one-stop shop for all emergencies. You can run fires, major disasters, hurricanes, any kind of civil unrest, all that stuff can be done from the software.
Okay, so if there
County
was
already has the money for it.
an incident like Buffalo, this would spread that information?
It could, right?
Could.
Yep. If we think we need it, so we can put our own type of stuff into the software too. It doesn't have to be in conjunction with everybody. But if there was some major disaster where everybody needed to be in the same room together, then we could do that as well.
I have a question, if I can. So the wording of the legislation states that Onondaga County, Oswego County, SU, and then in the breakdown of the letter, it states Onondaga, Oswego, Syracuse University, but then it says SUNY Upstate down in the detail.
Yep, SUNY Upstate, and I have a copy of the MOU here too, a draft MOU.
So-
SUNY Upstate and Oswego County want to be in part of this as well.
Right, so I'm just wondering why SUNY Upstate isn't added to the intro on that.
Because
letter.
they're funding, so the grant itself only funds City of Syracuse and Onondaga County.
Okay.
University, SUNY Upstate, and Oswego have to pay themselves separately.
Okay.
That's why it's divided up like that.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
Any other questions? No? Okay.
All
You want me to
righty.
continue?
Counselor Allen.
All right, so I have items 28 through 32. 28, 29, and 30, we did have a committee meeting last week. Michelle, if you want to come up.
Wait, what happened with 28 and 29? I'm sorry.
No, I'm still on them. So 28, 29, and 30, we had the committee meetings last week. So if you guys have any questions, we can kind of go over them right now. If you wanted to go over just briefly each one for the counselors that wasn't here, I think that'll be good.
Sure. So item 28 is to allocate $186,000 from ARPA to the creation of an emergency abatement pilot program. So this program would be looking to correct interior code violations on occupied rental properties, taking the same processes and procedures that we have in place for blight busting, which applies to vacant properties, applying that to these situations of occupied rental properties where there's critical life safety violations that are either happening on a repeat occurrence or that the owner is not addressing. So they're defined as kind of immediate hazards. I circulated a handout that outlines what those particular violations are that we would be looking to start with. 150,000 of the 186,000 total allocation would be allocated directly to remediation. The other remaining 36,000 would be going to offset staffing costs. We would anticipate doing a one-year pilot period for this program and then reevaluate based on the program data that we see for kind of what moving forward would look like.
Okay. Because these are ARPA funds, so if we do it for this first year, then next year, where will we take the funds from?
So where we would look, so the number one, we would be taking a look at any funds that were recouped directly, either because the bills were paid or because they ended up being paid through the tax bills. We would also be looking to do some analysis of anything that we would be bringing in from BAA penalties and take that into consideration as we're looking to kind of consider future funding rounds.
Okay, because I just don't want, I mean, I want this to work, but I don't want to get into a situation that it works, but then we
Certainly.
can't continue the next year because we don't have the funding.
Certainly, and I think that that's something that we're particularly with this program looking to really effectively balance, understanding that the goals for something like blight busting, where we were really intentional about trying to target properties that had the highest chance of paying, so that we could really create that revolving loan fund. That was a really big priority that we had in that particular context. We also are very aware of that in this context, but we want to be attentive to the fact that these are situations where the amount of housing instability that you could potentially be creating for individuals who are living in these situations, that does have tangential impacts for us within NBD in terms of additional relocation funds that we have to then end up putting towards those types of situations. So really want to basically kind of get through this first program pilot period, look at the data, and then kind of figure out next steps from there.
Okay. Any questions on 28? Okay. So you want to?
I think Commissioner Collins is going to do a 29 and 30.
Hi, councilors. 29 is our request for housing, funding for housing, specifically $11 million, again, American Rescue Plan Act dollars, where we would add this into the funding streams that we currently have that have allowed us to make progress on the Resurgent Neighborhood Initiative housing, infill housing portion of the Resurgent Neighborhood Initiative. So, which, as a reminder, as we talked about in our committee meeting, 50 owner-occupied homes, 1 and 2 family, and 150 rental units. So currently we fund that with funding from HUD through home and through CDBG, through funding we have through New York State with AHC, in partnering with other developers for LIHTC, the low-income housing tax credit applications, and other funding that other partners, other developers are able to bring in with them. $11 million would go a significant way towards being able to add to that. The other component that, as a reminder, that we discussed on the committee meeting was, so what does this look like from a developer side? So we are working with our purchasing department on finalizing a request for qualifications. So we would have pre-qualified developers, and it would be the first time that the city, in our memory, has had the ability to have control over choosing the developer, choosing the site, and an appropriate level of funding streams to be able to make progress. So, questions?
Can I piggyback on top of what you said? Because
Please.
when you talked about that this is going to be the first time that we're going to choose a developer and choose all of this. So while we're doing that, I know we have a lot of housing partners in the city, okay? So who's going to ensure accountability that we don't get shoddy houses? Who's going to be doing that?
So this does create a position within the development team, because right now we've got the team on the planning side that really works on location, and the team, the grants team, that really works on the finance. This allocation does request that we hire one additional person that manages the entire process related to this, and they're in a position then to make sure that the developers have a clerk of the works, that there are safety controls. Not safety controls, excuse me, quality controls in place specific for that. But typically what happens is the better developers have a clerk of the works or someone similar that is on site and making sure that the development is happening as designed, and having this person can make sure that those quality controls exist.
Is there like an application process for this?
The request for qualifications is being finalized right now. What we did is we found, working with our NDC, our national consultant that we work with, they were able to identify a similar request for qualifications in San Diego that we were able to use as a basis while marrying that along with our own local processes to be able to have a good document. And so we're just in the process of finalizing that right now.
And this will open when?
Shortly. We've got a final draft that we were able to just turn over to procurement last week. So they deserve a minute or two to be able to look it over and get back to us with whatever their questions are.
All right. And when the housing market study is going to be completed, the end of?
We would expect it would be by the end of this year.
Okay.
Right now we're interviewing the agencies that, or excuse me, the consultants that are our finalists. Okay. So setting up interviews with them, and once the RFP committee has made a recommendation, we'll come to you for authorization to use ARPA money and enter into contract with them. We expect that that'll take us to, that work would take to about the end of the year.
Okay. And you're the housing project coordinator. Will they have to have a construction background, or is it something where it's just like urban planning?
So there's a variety of backgrounds that can work well with this. It absolutely can be construction, it can be financing, it can be urban planning. Because of the fact that they're going to be existing within two strong teams that already have a lot of that innate talent, what we're able to do upon authorization is then draft out a job description where we can see exactly what skill set we want to add to the team, but all of those things will be considered as we really evaluate the strengths that we currently have.
And the salary is, do you think the salary is enough so we don't run into the problem of not being able to hire a qualified person? Because the salary wasn't, what is it, like 65?
It's in that range. We would always love to be able to offer more. We always have to also take a look at how does that fit within current pay structure. And,
I mean,
and
you
not
have,
create
if they're
inequities.
going to be coordinating $11 million, like, so we need somebody that's highly qualified and skilled to do this, but paying them at a lower rate, we may not end up with the best person to do it.
I totally agree. Our team right now, as we talked about in our budget session, our team right now collectively is consistently averaging over $30 million a year. So it's a dollar amount that we're used to. We have been, when you look at the grants team right now, it is exceptionally strong in both a combination of their expertise when it comes to the administration of grants, but also the areas in which those dollars are being utilized within the community. And so we would be looking for someone with a similar skill set. And frankly, if we look at the hiring practices within neighborhood and business development, we don't hire warm bodies. We wait sometimes a little painfully long to make sure that we have the right person, and that's why you constantly hear me bragging about the fact that I've got the most amazing team. If we get to a point where we simply can't, then we would look to address that with a increased salary.
Okay. All right, and are you doing item 30 as well?
I am.
Okay.
So item 30, so we're addressed in the committee, looking at $4.5 million to address childhood lead poisoning, and to address that both on the enforcement side and also on the remediation side. So building up the capacity that we've already been growing within code enforcement, as Director Dishaw has discussed. All of the inspectors have begun training and have initial levels of certification. And Jessica Vinciguerra, who manages our remediation program with the current grant through HUD, grants through Community Foundation, and some of the CDBG money that we allocate through that, has done a phenomenal job since she's come into this position of making sure that we are qualifying homeowners and residents so that we can work with our partners at the county and get contractors in to remediate. This allows us to do more homes. The question came up, hey, why are we not doing even more money for this as we did with the housing? We want to come to you with a request that we believe is appropriate for what the capacity of the community is when it comes to contracting to be able to also get this out the door. And if we end up being super efficient with it, we'll certainly be happy to come back and ask for more money.
For this program, is there guidelines, income guidelines for this, right? And what about age requirements, like for seniors who have lead in their life?
As you know, Counselor, a lot of times seniors are caregivers for our youngest children, and that would be considered. So if there is consistently children under the age of 6 in the home, that's a priority for us.
So I know that's right. So is there anything set aside for just the senior homes? Because I know we typically look at kids under age 6, but what about the elderly?
So it would depend on whether or not that elderly person is caring for a young child. Because of the fact that we're probably hundreds of millions of dollars short of solving the problem, and the greatest risk is for children, from a health concern and developmental concern, is for children under 6. We're choosing to put the money where that greatest risk is.
All right.
Okay.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? No? All right, and items 31 and 32 we held over, but they did redeem, so we're gonna withdraw items 31 and 32. And I'm all set.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 33 through 40. I don't know is Mary's presenting on these, or John?
Good afternoon, councilors. John Kibland, Department of Engineering. Items 33, 34, and 35 are associated with the West Genesee Street paving project. They're to amend the bonding, the agreement with NISDOT, and the project authorization, adding the construction inspection phase for $9,375,000.
So what was it amended from to, John? Which is the change?
Let me see. The previous amount was, don't have that number right now, but the total project costs will now be, federal will be $10,059,000.
Okay. If you could break that down for us, what it was and what it is currently. And also, you mentioned federal money. I was just curious, where all the 10 million is coming from, 10 million plus. Is this, are we getting reimbursed? Is this state?
It's
federal?
80% federal reimbursement. Right now we're at 12.17 Marchicelli, and then the remainder would be local share.
Okay.
Okay,
we
so
get-
it is 12%
Yes.
Marcia Shelley.
We possibly could get more Marchicelli funding next year to bring that up to 15%. Our local share would be 5%.
So that puts us between 5 and, well, 8 currently, but you imagine it'll be 5 eventually.
Correct.
That's good stuff. Okay, do any of my fellow councilors have any questions about this one?
I'm just confused. I know what it's saying, but I'm looking at the $10 million cost not to exceed, but then it says the total project not to exceed 12 million. So where did that other 2 come from? I should have asked that earlier.
The city is doing some local improvements as part of the project. We're going to replace sections of water main and sewer along West Genesee Street. That construction is not federally eligible, but DPW and the Water Department and the Parks Department are going to contribute 2.6 million.
Okay, so it's city money added.
City
in
money
there
added
as
to the
well.
construction project,
So we
yes.
approved that 2 or 3 sessions ago, I think, President. We were talking about,
Right, but the way this is reading, it's all coming from the state at the 80%, so. Okay.
yeah, it would be good to get some further clarity on that, just to. Oh, it's all in there? Okay, cool. Great. Any other further questions from my fellow councilors? No? Yep. All right, if you want to handle the next few, Jim?
Yep. Items 36, 37, and 38 are authorizations to start the West Midland Avenue paving project from West Ostrander to Seneca Turnpike. The first phase is preliminary design, and the cost of that is $256,000. Again, that's 80% reimbursable, 15% Marchicelli, and 5% local.
Great. Any questions, councilors? No? Okay.
Item number 39 is to appropriate funds of $25,500 to acquire a new GPS unit for the Department of Engineering.
What is this GPS being used for?
For surveying purposes.
Okay.
Okay, any questions, councilors? All right, then you can take us home, John, with the last one.
Okay, item number 40 is to rescind an encroachment to Michael Sturpey for a sign on the West Genesee Street right-of-way. This is associated with the paving project. The sign is right where we are proposing to construct new sidewalk.
I have never seen a rescind.
It's the former Orion's.
Oh, I know what it
funeral
is.
sign.
I know what it is, but I just never seen us rescind anything. Okay.
I reached out under the instructions of Mary, head of the engineering department. I always follow her instructions, and I talked to Mr. Sturp, or Dr. Sturp. He's not a happy camper, but
He'll be all right.
he's getting a new sidewalk.
He'll be all right.
All right, I believe that's everything, President.
Thank you.
All righty. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, meeting adjourned.
We're off.